In the spring of 1922, deep in the Bavarian countryside of Germany, there was a farm so isolated the nearest neighbors were nearly a mile away. It was called Hinterkaifeck. No streetlights, no passing traffic, just endless fields, a dark forest, and a single farmhouse that sat quietly at the edge of the trees. What happened there would become one of the most disturbing unsolved crimes in German history. And even now, more than a century later, it still feels unfinished. In the days leading up to the murders, the owner of the farm, Andreas Gruber, noticed something strange. After a fresh snowfall, he saw a single set of footprints leading from the deep woods to his house, but there were no footprints leading back. At first, he brushed it off, but then other things started happening. He heard slow, deliberate footsteps in the attic at night, pacing above the ceiling. When he checked, he found nothing. No one was there. The family's house keys vanished. Tools began to disappear from the shed. Then a newspaper showed up on the porch, one the family had never subscribed to or even seen before. The final straw came when the family's maid suddenly quit. She told neighbors she was terrified, that she believed the house was haunted. She heard voices and strange noises at night and refused to stay another evening. Her replacement, a woman named Maria Baumgartner, arrived on March 31st, 1922. That night would be her last. The residents of Hinterkaifeck were Andreas Gruber, 63 years old, his wife, Cecilia, 72, their widowed daughter, Victoria, 35, and Victoria's two small children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph, and of course, the new maid, Maria, 6 people in total. By the next morning, all of them would be dead. It appears that sometime during the night, someone began luring the family into the barn, one by one. There were no signs of a struggle outside, no forced entry. This detail is crucial. It means whoever did this, the victims likely knew and trusted them enough to follow them into the darkness of the barn without a fight. Inside, each family member was brutally killed with a mattock, a heavy farming tool similar to a pickaxe. The police believed Andreas was the first to be led into the trap, then his wife, Cecilia, then their daughter, Victoria, and then the 7-year-old child, little Cecilia. Their bodies were found stacked together in the hay, almost as if they were being stored away, but one chilling detail stands out. The forensic report at the time concluded that the little girl didn't die immediately. Evidence showed she had survived for several hours after the attack, lying in the dark among her deceased family, pulling out clumps of her own hair in agony and terror before she finally succumbed to her injuries. The killer just left her there? After murdering 4 people in the barn, the killer walked calmly back into the house. The new maid, Maria Baumgartner, was killed in her bed. She was likely attacked in her sleep and never even woke up. Then the killer went to the nursery. There, he killed 2-year-old Joseph in his crib. The youngest victim, a toddler, never had a chance to even understand what was happening to him. The crime itself was horrific, but what happened next is what makes this case so deeply unsettling. The killer didn't run. He didn't flee the scene. He stayed. For several days, someone continued to live at Hinterkaifeck. The farm animals were fed and watered. The fire in the kitchen stove was kept burning to keep the house warm. Food was eaten from the pantry. Neighbors later reported seeing smoke rising from the chimney for days after the family was murdered. Someone was walking around the property, calmly, deliberately, while 6 bodies lay nearby, decaying in the house and barn. Days passed. No one came to check on the family. The isolation that had defined their lives now shrouded their deaths. Eventually, neighbors grew suspicious. The Gruber children hadn't shown up for school, the mail was piling up, and the family hadn't been seen at church. On April 4th, 4 days after the murders, a small search party of local men finally went to the farm to investigate. What they found inside would haunt them for the rest of their lives. In the barn, they made the gruesome discovery. 4 bodies stacked and cold, partially covered with hay. They immediately rushed to the house, hoping to find survivors. Instead, they found more death. The maid was dead in her bed. The toddler was dead in his crib. But something was off. Nothing of value appeared to be stolen. A large sum of money was left untouched in a desk drawer. Jewelry and other valuables were all still there. This wasn't a robbery. It was something else entirely. The police arrived, but their investigation was a disaster from the start. They made a series of devastating mistakes that compromised the crime scene beyond repair. They allowed dozens of curious villagers to walk through the house and barn, contaminating everything. The murder weapon, the mattock, was handled by multiple people with their bare hands. They even let neighbors touch and move the bodies before the coroner could examine them properly. Any chance of identifying the killer with forensic evidence vanished that day. Over the next few years, police questioned over 100 suspects. They investigated former farmhands, neighbors, and even a rejected suitor of Victoria's who had a known grudge. Rumors swirled around the family itself. Andreas Gruber was known to be a difficult and abusive man, and some whispered that the murders were an act of revenge for some past transgression. But every lead went cold. No one was ever arrested. There was no confession, no solid evidence, no killer identified. The most terrifying theory, and the one that seems to fit the strange events leading up to the murders, is also the simplest. Someone had been living in the attic. The mysterious footprints that didn't lead away, the footsteps heard from above, the missing keys and tools, the strange newspaper, the former maid's deep-seated fear. The killer may have been watching the family for days, or even weeks, from within the walls of their own home, listening, waiting for the perfect moment. And after he killed them, he simply stayed. He ate their food, slept under their roof, and tended to their livestock, all while the bodies of the family he had just murdered lay a few feet away. Then, at some unknown point, he simply walked away, disappearing back into the forest as mysteriously as he had arrived. He left no trace, no name, nothing but a legacy of pure terror. The farmstead of Hinterkaifeck was eventually demolished in 1923, just a year after the murders. The land was cleared, and today, nothing remains of the farmhouse or the barn. A small memorial stands nearby, a quiet testament to the tragedy that occurred there. But the story refuses to disappear, because this wasn't just a murder. It was a profound violation of safety, isolation, and trust. It was the story of a place where an unknown presence watched a family live, then systematically erased them, and then lingered in the silence that followed. The killer of Hinterkaifeck was never found, and somewhere in the dark woods of Bavaria, the truth died with him, or maybe it's still out there, waiting.